Welcome back. Accountant Richard Peterkin is yet another prominent voice adding his to the discussion about the U.S. election. He believes that if Biden were to win the U.S. presidential election, it would improve the image of America around the world and certainly in the Caribbean, where most onlookers back the Democratic candidate. But in terms of direct benefits to the Caribbean, he expects very little change in policies. He says, quite frankly, the U.S. has bigger issues on its own soil to tackle.
You know, to be honest, I don't even think it makes that much of a difference. I don't think either of them are that concentrating that much on the Caribbean. Clearly, Mr. Trump had some supporters in the Caribbean, but I'd have to believe if, for example, we could have voted in St. Lucia and our vote counted, this would have been a safe vote for Biden, and it would have been unanimous, you know, other than one or two people I see on Facebook. But at the end of the day, they got so many other problems on their hands that, you know, the Caribbean is not exactly on the front burner. And I don't see any major changes in policies that we can now say, oh, that's going to make a big difference for us.
However, he says a change in administration in the U.S. will undoubtedly lead to the U.S. regaining some of its prestige on the world stage.
There are a lot of changes that Mr. Biden has promised in terms of the relationship with the rest of the world, a number of other issues that Trump did not seem to, either he ignored or he treated badly. So I think that it should be an improvement if Biden wins to the image of America in the rest of the world, to the image of America in the Caribbean, who largely supports Democrats and definitely doesn't support Mr. Trump. But those changes are not necessarily major changes as far as relationships with the Caribbean.
In some tourism circles, there is concern that Joe Biden will intensify the U.S.'s COVID response and possibly institute lockdown measures which will affect travel to St. Lucia. However, there has been no indication from Joe Biden that a lockdown would be part of his approach to managing the COVID-19 pandemic. As fisherfolk engaged with relevant stakeholders earlier this week, a hot topic was that of the relatively new fisheries entity. Lucian Blue Ocean Seafood is the new face of the 34-year-old St. Lucia Fish Marketing Corporation, which had served the country for decades. The entity, that should be the new entity, is privately owned with support from the government of St. Lucia. Nisha Charles tells us more.
Successive administrations neglected the proper running of the Fish Marketing Corporation as it was known. Because when it was set up in its heyday, was to buy everything from fishers. Okay? Somewhere along the line, that fell apart. Yeah? It was under successive administrations too, mounting up debts, yeah, and successive governments having to bail them out. What exists at present, being a fisher, should have never happened.
That was the view of Kurt Cherry, the representative of the fisherfolk community, as he spoke on the hot seat Wednesday evening on matters affecting the fishing sector. Cherry believes that government should have allowed cooperatives to put forward a proposal to run the Fish Corporation.
We've been the heart and soul of the industry. We were marginalized. And it was given solely to a private entity. What would have been better was a cooperative private sector venture, 50-50. That would have guaranteed fishers a market and a better price for our fish. Okay? As the private entity stands there, they may say that they would like to buy all the fish, but we understand how business runs. Business is profit driven for whoever has invested in it. Yeah? And if you're going to get fish cheaper somewhere to help you make a profit, that is what you will do because it's your business.
The St. Lucia Fish Marketing Corporation changed hands at the beginning of 2020 with a new name, Lucian Blue Ocean Seafoods. The development, which is supported by government, is expected to see the partnership of the Ministry of Agriculture and the entity for the sale and storage of fish as well as a delicatessen. For the Hot 7 News, Nisha Charles reporting.
Donald Trump and Joe Biden are each confident of victory in the U.S. presidential election as the outcome hangs in the balance, with both sides embroiled in a legal fight over votes. Vote counting is still going on in crucial battleground states that will decide the election. Projected wins in the Rust Belt states of Michigan and Wisconsin have inched Biden closer to victory. As results trickle in, Trump has challenged vote counts in key states. The president has made unfounded assertions of victory and allegations of voter fraud, accusing Democrats of trying to steal the election. Biden stopped short of declaring victory but said he was confident he was on course to beat his Republican rival. Overall turnout in Tuesday's election is projected to be the highest in 120 years. Biden had the support of 70.5 million voters, the most won by any presidential candidate ever. Trump has pulled in 67.2 million votes, 4 million more than he gained in 2016. The bitter election race was dominated by the coronavirus pandemic, but the economy, which has been badly affected by the pandemic, was the most important single issue to voters, according to exit poll data. Staff members at the Soufriere Public Library have had to endure subpar conditions for quite some time. The General Secretary of the St. Lucia Civil Service Association is addressing the matter. Genevieve Gonzague reports.
It may appear that the advent of COVID-19 put everything else on the back burner. While respiratory issues are one of the symptoms of COVID-19, staff at the Soufriere Public Library are concerned about respiratory issues caused by a completely different phenomenon: mold. The situation has been brought to the attention of the bargaining agent of workers there, and the General Secretary of the St. Lucia Civil Service Association, Claude Paul, says the relevant authorities have been made aware of the plight of workers on the West Coast. He, however, revealed that mold is only one of the issues that staff at the library have to contend with.
The Soufriere Library in particular has some even more challenging issues of leaks. And in fact, one of our visits there, we saw buckets being used to collect water, potential damage to the property, to the resources, the books. And the staff having to work in these conditions is certainly not an acceptable situation.
He says the presence of mold at any institution is a violation of proper health and safety measures. He says the union is appealing to the authorities to pay attention to the cries of communities out of Castries, as they seem to be neglected often.
What we do is that we bring the matter to the attention of the respective agencies. I am told that the library in the Moshi area is getting some attention now, and I'm happy that something is being done about that particular situation. But we say, okay, let's get to Soufriere. It has been outstanding for over a year. We have drawn it to the attention, and the staff down there have been very patient. So we call on the Ministry of Education, the Chief Librarian, and those persons to do what is required. And a lot of attention may be given, as you pointed out, to the high profile areas, because of course it would affect the bottom line. In non-revenue, for instance, is an area where taxes have to be collected, and a shutdown by inland revenue will affect government in a significant way.
Paul says, unfortunately, since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, no meetings have been convened with relevant authorities, but they are aware of the situation being faced. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonzague.
Thank you, Genevieve. Stay with us. Sports and weather are coming up after the break.